formulas and applications. Mainly what you're learning in this section is how to take an equation and rearrange it for a different letter. We've done that in a chapter prior to this, but the problems are much more difficult in this chapter, and they involve some of the skills from section 5, which involves solving equations. And that was, when there's a denominator, you had to find a least common denominator and clear that. Now, that concept's going to apply as we solve some of these problems. Here's an example of what we're looking to do. I have this equation, S equals, in parentheses, v sub 1 plus v sub 2 times t divided by 2. And we want to solve this equation for t. I'm sorry, we want to solve it for v sub 1. I want to share a couple of things with you in case you've never seen this before. When you see a letter with a subscript like this, v sub 1, that's how you say it. V sub 2, and it's used most often in your science classes, and it might represent velocity of an object, but it might be the velocity of an object at a starting point, time 1, and then v sub 2 might be the velocity of that object at a closing point or an ending point, v sub 2. So you'll often see variables where there's a subscript. It has nothing to do with exponents. It is just a way to define a variable that has the same meaning, v as in velocity, but starting and ending. Often in science you might see a t sub 1 and a t sub 2. That tends to represent temperature at time 1 and temperature at time 2. So this will happen a lot. Let's go ahead and look at this problem. My big issue here with this problem is that I have a denominator of 2. And we have learned that one of the ways to clear denominators is to multiply both sides by that common denominator. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to clear this right-hand side of that 2. And what I'll have now is 2s equals v sub 1 plus v sub 2 times t. Now I want to get v sub 1 alone, so my next step is to get rid of these parentheses. So I'm going to distribute the t times both of the terms on the right side of the equation. So I'll have t times v sub 1 plus t times v sub 2, again distributing the t times both of those. And now, again, I'm looking to get this term right here alone, because I want to solve for v sub 1. So since this reads plus t v sub 2, I've got to subtract it in order to get rid of it. And so I'll have 2s minus t v sub 2 equals t times v sub 1. And now finally at this point, because I'm looking to solve for v sub 1, and this reads t times v sub 1, I'm going to divide both sides by t. Please put it over the whole, or in the denominator, put a full line underneath this numerator. Cancel those out. And what we have now is v sub 1 equals 2s minus t times v sub 2 divided by t. This is the best way to write this. However, there are other ways to simplify this. You could write this t underneath each of these terms in the numerator, and if you did that, you would be treating it as though you were dividing a polynomial by a monomial, and you could simplify there. I'm going to go ahead and show you that. This is a good answer, this is a complete answer, but another way to write this answer is 2s over t. Again, put that denominator over each of these, and then the next term, t v sub 2 over t. And the reason you might do that is because then those could be reduced. And so another way to write this very same answer is 2s over t minus v sub 2. All right, again, here's a good solution. Here's another very valid solution. I believe Course Compass will accept both of those, but if you had trouble, again, don't forget to write me. Let's look at another problem. I would like to solve this formula now, t over a plus t over b equals 1. It looks like a work formula to me. I would like to solve this for the letter b. Because I have two fractions involved here, and the least common denominator between these two fractions is a, b, then I'm going to go ahead and choose to multiply both sides of the equation. In other words, both terms on the left-hand side and the 1 on the right-hand side by the AB. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the denominators. Again, this is a wonderful strategy because I don't like working with fractions. And so I'm going to remove those denominators, and what I'll be left with in the first term is b times t, and then a times t equals a times b. Again, I want to solve for b. I have to be really careful. This one is a very unusual problem. There's a term with b in it here and a term with b in it here. I can't solve for b unless I get those terms together and then factor that b out. So I'm going to have to subtract bt from both sides of this equation so that I have both terms with b in it over here. So I'll have an ab minus bt. And now, in order, again, to solve for b, I have to factor the b out of both of those terms. This is back to our previous chapter where we learned to factor. This is the greatest common factor in those terms. I'll need an a minus t here. Check it out. b times a is that ab. b times t is that bt. And again, now I want to solve for this b, and it reads b times all of that. So to get rid of all of that, I have to divide both sides by the a minus t, and that cancels out. And I'm done. B is equal to at over a minus t. I might repeat that over here. Again, b is equal to a times t in the numerator over a minus t in the denominator. And you'll see that I've taken the original expression, I've solved for the letter b. There is no letter b in my answer. That can never be the case. You cannot solve a formula for a letter and have that letter in your answer. So you had to get both terms on this side and factor that b out. Very good. We'll go on to one more. Here's the next problem that I'd like to do. Again, I want to solve for the letter e. I'd like you to notice that this happens to be a proportion. There's a fraction here and one fraction here and an equal sign. One of the easiest ways to deal with a proportion is to set the cross products equal. Now I don't have to do that. The common denominator here is ER. And I could multiply both sides by ER and I would be all set there as well. However, another very simple way, and I just want to remind you of this process, is to take that product, capital E times lowercase r, and let it equal this product right here. Just be careful to go ahead and take that little e and multiply it by, in parentheses, capital R plus little r. And fractions are gone. You know, I would have gotten the same thing if I had multiplied both sides by lowercase er. I want to solve for e. I got to watch in this case. E is already alone as a factor, and it's the only place it shows in this whole equation. So I don't need to distribute this. I don't need to take e times this capital R and e times this little r. I could get e all alone right now by dividing both sides by capital R plus lowercase r. And removing that common factor, that's equal to 1, and I have lowercase e is equal to capital E times lowercase r divided by capital R plus lowercase r, and I'm all done. That's all we're going to do with solving formulas. It is an important skill in your science classes to be able to take an equation and rearrange it for a different letter, and then substitute values in for the letters to solve for that one letter you rearranged for. We'll go on next to the last section in this chapter, and the CD will be